Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I see a lot of networking is taking place, which is exactly what we want to have happen at these events. Well, welcome back to the Economic Club of Indiana. Again, the place to be challenged by leading speakers and to advance great ideas collectively. Thank you all for coming today to our third luncheon of the 49th season. My name is Jeffrey Harrison. I'm the president and CEO of Citizens Energy Group and very honored to serve as the president of the Indiana Economic Club for the 2023-2024 season. Before I introduce the president's table, let's take a moment to thank our platinum sponsors for the season. You will again notice a select group of banners that are outlined in gold, and these flags designate organizations that have been sponsors for at least 10 years. And again, we continue to add more. I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome back as a platinum sponsor, Ball State Miller College of Business. Ball State, welcome back. Our luncheons continue to grow from conversation in the room to online as trending topics. So please, if you haven't already, get out your phones and post or tweet so that everyone knows that you are involved with lively conversations here at the Economic Club of Indiana. The Economic Club X handle, formerly Twitter, is at EconomicClubIN. And we are tweeting using the hashtag EconLunch. You'll also find us on Facebook. As you know, again, our pre-event email, we are able to offer that special parking rate. So you've got a QR code at the reception table out front for a $12 rate if you parked at the Denison parking garage. So again, let's thank Denison for their generous parking rate. Now let's introduce the president's table. And when I introduce your name, would you please stand? We are pleased to have One America this season as our presenting sponsor. Representing One America is Steve Pearson, Vice President of Total Rewards and HRIS. Steve, join me in a big round of applause to thank One America. Welcome. Next, we have Mike Simmons, Joy's House board member and president and CEO of Bridge Builder Strategies. Today's luncheon is brought to you by Joy's House, which serves adults living with life-altering diagnosis and their families by providing exceptional adult day and caregiver services. November is National Family Caregiver Month and marks the launch of their innovative caregiver support services. Thank you. And just in time, I saw her just sit down, is Melina Kennedy. Melina is the CEO of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, a nonprofit comprised of 5 talent and industry sector initiatives dedicated to address challenges and opportunities unique to its respective areas, including ag biosciences, talent and workforce development, life sciences, advanced manufacturing, and logistics and technology. CICP is also a platinum sponsor of the Economic Club. Welcome, Melina. We have Ann Hathaway, President and CEO of Hathaway Strategies. Ann serves as on the Economic Club Board of Governors and chaired the program committee that lined up this season's amazing roster. Big round of applause for Ann and the program committee for all their great work. Welcome also to Fred Glass, President and CEO of Gleaners Food Bank, a nonprofit established in 1980 with a focus on developing programs and forming partnerships designed to lead the fight against hunger in central Indiana. Corteva is proud to partner with Gleaners as part of this mission. Fred, welcome. Then we have today's speaker, Chuck Magro, CEO of Corteva Agriscience. I will share more on today's guest speaker after the meal, so thank you to all of our guests for joining us. Will you please join me in one last round of applause for the President's Table guests? Just a few more items. You'll find those white cards on your table if you have any questions. Please prepare those and ask questions for our speakers today. You can fill those out, raise that up during the program, and a team member will come around and collect them. As a reminder, you can also tweet your questions to @EconomicClubIN. And again, we encourage you to tweet today. We are receiving, again, a number of questions via X. Please enjoy your lunch, and I'll be back to start the program shortly. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Please continue to enjoy your meal, but we will go ahead and get our program started. It is my great honor to introduce today's speaker, who I'm very excited to hear from today. Our speaker, Chuck Magro, is the CEO of Corteva Agriscience. Prior to joining Corteva on November 1st, 2021, he served as president and CEO of Nutrien from the company's launch in 2018 until April of 2021. From 2014 to 2018, Chuck served as president and CEO of Agrium, which merged with Potash Corporation of Saskatchewan to create Nutrien. As president and CEO of Nutrien, Chuck led more than 27,000 employees to achieve best-in-class engagement, top safety performance, and exceptional business results. He also led the company through numerous M&A transactions, expanding globally and restructuring the industry. Prior to his role, he held a variety of other key leadership positions within the company, including Chief Operating Officer, Chief Risk Officer, Executive Vice President of Corporate Development, and Vice President of Manufacturing. He joined Agrium in 2009 following a productive career with Nova Chemicals. Chuck currently serves on the board of CropLife International, Business Roundtable, the Imagine Food Collective, Ingredient, and the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership. He is also a member of the University of Waterloo Dean's Advisory Council. Chuck holds a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Applied Science degree in Chemical Engineering from the University of Waterloo and a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Windsor. Please help me welcome Chuck as we invite him up to the stage. Well, Chuck, can everyone hear me? Are we on? Mic is hot. All right, Chuck, thanks for being here, and again, appreciate your taking time out of your very busy schedule. There's a lot going on these days, I think, for all of us. And again, just to start us off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and then just talk a little bit about your passion?
Sure. Well, hi, everyone. It's fantastic to be here. I'm absolutely delighted spending the afternoon with you. I thought I'd start maybe by explaining my first Thanksgiving weekend in Indy. Maybe that'll give you a little bit of a flavor of who I am. So in the last 2 years, we moved here, but we've been out of town, so this was our first Thanksgiving here, and I had some family, and it's amazing. So they all went Black Friday shopping, which was absolutely crazy. They loved it. And then in the last 2 days, we started Saturday. We went to the Nutcracker Ballet up in Carmel, which was absolutely fantastic production. And then at night, we went to the Kiss Rock concert. So a little bit of something for everyone, which I think is the definition of Carmel in Indiana. I got to tell you, there's something for everyone. And then I sent the crew to the Colts game, and they won, so that was great. So they had just a great day. But when I say I'm glad to be here, it's because I'm exhausted and I need to get out of the house because they're still at my house. Anyway, so I've been involved in agriculture on and off for most of my life. I actually grew up in Canada. I'm Canadian, and I was a hired hand on a dairy farm for many years, and they became my second family, and I fell in love with ag and the way of life. I love everything about it. I love the people, the work ethic, and of course the purpose. To me, there's nothing better. There's nothing I want to do more with my life than get up every day and try to figure out how we can feed this growing planet. I moved to Indiana about 2 years ago. I am the CEO of Corteva, and we settled in Carmel, which is just for me and my wife. So my wife and I and our dog Zoe, we're the ones that moved out of the Magro family. I do have 2 children, but they're up in Canada. One is working and one is still in school. So that's been the one complication. Is I was telling Jeff, I've moved a lot in my career, 9 or 10 times, but this is the first move without the kids, even though they're in their 20s. For those that have kids in their 20s, you know they still need mom and dad. But overall, it's been great. And I spent a lot of this summer actually in a pickup truck meeting a lot of Indiana farmers. And that's been just a great way to spend the summer and understand their business, our business, and what we need to do to help them be successful, which I've just found it to be really great. They're open, they're transparent, and they're really clear on what they need to be successful and for farming in the future, Jeff. So that's a little bit about me and the business.
Great, well, thanks. Again, great to hear, Chuck, and we were talking about our children and how it's really good when they graduate and get off the payroll. And then they move into business, which you have done. And can you tell us a little bit more about Corteva and really a little bit, if you could, about the company's history, and there's some naming in there as well. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Corteva is a relatively new name, but it's got a long, proud history with probably a new identity. And sometimes I believe this is true. We're possibly the oldest startup in history. And that's because Corteva really was founded as the product of the Dow-DuPont merger and then the 3-way spin that they did back in 2018 and 2019. And Corteva is really the ag technology business from Dow and DuPont. So of course DuPont's over 200 years old, Dow's over 100 years old, so lots of history here, proud cultures, fantastic organizations. And then in Indiana, our roots go back to Dow Chemical and Lilly putting their businesses together, their ag businesses together. If you heard the name Dow Elanco and then Dow Agrisciences, that's the history. We're up in Zionsville as an organization, and we're very proud of that. I often get asked 2 questions about Corteva. One, is it Corteva or Corteva? And it's a made-up name, so you can say it any way you want, but we prefer Corteva. And then what does it mean? Does it have a meaning? And it does. So Cor means heart, and Teva means nature. So it literally the heart of nature. And that, I think it's fitting. It's a great name. I can't take any credit for it, but it's a great name. And then just a little bit about Corteva today. So we are the world's largest pure-play ag technology company on the planet. And we're publicly traded in the US, and we're very proud of that. So some of our competition are integrated, but they're not in the United States as a pure-play ag technology company. We have about 21,000 employees. We operate in about 120 countries. And we have 2,000 employees in Indiana, and we're very proud of that. And every single day, we invest about $4 million in research and development and technology for farmers to use around the world to produce food. And up to last year, before last year, we were headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware. We moved the headquarters, so we're very proud now to say that Indy is our headquarters. And we also have our global research and development for our crop production business, which is about half of our company, is headquartered here as well. So we do a lot of research and development, and our headquarters is here.
You know, and it's a beautiful facility on the northwest side, just amazing, and happy that you're here. Can you know, we know that Indiana is a great state. We think, again, Indianapolis is a great capital. Can you say a little bit more about Corteva's decision to relocate their headquarters from Delaware to Indianapolis, and what went into that?
Yeah, sure. So quick story. I started joining the company in November 2021. And my first meeting with the board, they said, Chuck, we're not sure you should be in Wilmington. Maybe you should think about relocating the headquarters. So, and at the time we were in Wilmington, Delaware on the DuPont campus, which is a fantastic campus. And I thought to myself, great, the very first act I'm going to do as a CEO is to move a headquarters of a company from Wilmington, Delaware, where our president is from. I'm thinking, oh my goodness sakes, what did I get myself into? But when we started to think about it, it was a pretty easy decision, right? We just let the facts and the data help us through the selection process. It took us about 6 to 9 months to figure out where we wanted to be. But we knew a few things. We really wanted to be close to our customers as a company. And Indiana is a top 5 producer of corn and soybeans. And like I said, I spent this summer driving through the state and meeting farmers. But being close and being able to get into a pickup truck and talk to your customers, that's a big deal for us. The other thing, of course, is that we wanted to be close to the core of the company, which is innovation, science, and technology. And a big part of our research and development is here. So that made a lot of sense. We don't do a lot of research in Wilmington. We've got great corporate services in Wilmington, but not a lot of research. Then we started to get into sort of the softer stuff, right? We wanted to understand where can we have the best quality of life for our employees, affordable housing, good education. These things are really important. And Indiana just ranks so high when against all the other kind of criteria we looked at, that we made the decision to move the headquarters. And it's never an easy decision, but the data really drew us here. And what I'd say is we couldn't be more pleased, Jeff, with our decision. I've got about half my global leadership team is now resident here, so my direct reports. Every one of them, it's fair to say, is happy, integrated into the community. Housing was a little bit of a challenge at first, just finding appropriate housing for folks. There was just, I think the last couple of years, it's been a really tight market. But they're all settled into the community, and hopefully you'll see much more of Corteva in the future and the executive team. But we've got, like I said, a great organization that's proud to be part of the community.
Great. Thank you again for being here. It's good to hear the feedback regarding how we fare against some of the other communities that you were looking at. Let's talk about the agricultural industry. You're right that ag is one of the state's most important industries, and we certainly hope that that will be true, obviously, for a long time to come. How do you see the industry evolving over the next 10 to 20 years, and what would you say, what's your vision around that?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I'm an optimist about ag and the future of ag, and there's 2 reasons for that. One, agriculture actually has a very proven track record of performance. We've been able to feed the world, and we've been able to lower the levels of hunger and poverty around the world. Now, we've got a little bit of an issue with that right now. We could talk about that later. But overall, I'd say the industry has fared very well at feeding ourselves. And we've done it sustainably and responsibly. But also, as a CEO of one of the leading science companies in agriculture, I get a little insight into that pipeline and what's coming into the future. And I am really excited about what the future of ag brings, because I can see the future products and solutions that farmers will be using 5, 10, 15, even 20 years from now. But there are challenges in our industry, and here's how I would kind of wrap them up. The mission of agriculture hasn't changed, right? We're here to feed the world. And that will always be our top priority as an organization, as Corteva, but also as the industry. And as I've mentioned, there's been a very proud history of performance. And if you look at it from a sustainability perspective, there's no time in history compared to today where we were able to produce as much food with less land, less water, and more less carbon. Is there work to do in this space? Absolutely. We need to keep driving. But farming, agriculture, and the science behind it today has never been more efficient to produce food, which I think is great. But the industry now, besides feeding the world, is being asked to take on another new challenge, which is really to help with the energy transition. So when you start thinking about this, the energy industry is moving away from fossil fuels to more renewable energy, and biofuels need to be part of that solution. And this is a massive opportunity for farmers, and I would dare say for U.S. farmers, because U.S. farmers are some of the most advanced, productive farmers in the world, and biofuel technology and biofuel production coming out of crops is going to take a certain level of sophistication, and I think the U.S. is going to be well positioned for this. So that's kind of the next, I think, 10 to 20 years is we're going to go from 8 billion people on the planet to 10 billion people by 2050. We've got to figure out a way to produce more food. We have to do it more sustainably, and then we have to take on this new challenge of helping with the energy transition. So these are the three things that we're working as an industry and as a company. I'll just give a quick plug for Indiana farmers for this year. When we were in June, and June was one of the driest months on record in Indiana, and we were really concerned about that crop. But in many parts of the state, we saw record production for corn and for soybeans. And that's just a testament of the quality of our farmers in this state. It's remarkable, and it's a testament, I think, of the technology, the hard work, the effort that goes into a harvest every year, and we're very proud of our Indiana farmers.
You talked about the challenges and again, population boom. We talked a little bit about energy, more sustainable energy being demanded by society as we move forward in time. How has Corteva positioned itself to thrive in that future?
Yeah, so you know when we start thinking about company then, and if you think the future that we just talked about and the challenges and the opportunities we have, one of the things I do as a leader of the company is we have to allocate resources, and the R&D pipelines in ag are very, very long, right? We need to make investments today, and we probably wouldn't see even in my tenure as CEO, you probably won't even see those products in the field in farmers' hands around the world. But what we've done is we want to position Corteva to be sort of at the center of this energy, technology, food production, and climate change. So we call it, we have three frontiers we're investing along. One is what we call hunger solutions. So food productivity, production, yield, the things that farmers are very good at today, trying to drive the next level of production on the farm. The other frontier or tier that we think about is climate and climate solutions. And that's everything from making our crops more resistant to high temperatures and variable weather, to trying to drive up productivity where crops can use less water. The genetics are such that we don't need as much water. And all of that is happening in our labs today. It's pretty remarkable. And then the third dimension is energy solutions, which we've talked a little bit about. So let me give you just one quick example that kind of covers all three. This past summer, we announced a relationship with Bunge, which is one of the largest grain handling companies in the world, and Chevron, one of the largest energy companies in the world. And I think that's a theme. What we're finding is that no one company can solve these challenges. We have to work together, and we have to go through the economy. And so you've got Corteva, you've got Bunge, and you've got Chevron, three very, very large companies that go across what we would call our value chain. And we're working with farmers in the Mid-South. So think about Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, but even Kentucky, so our neighbor. And what we're doing is we're bringing a second crop to these farmers. So what will happen is in the summertime, farmers will grow food. They'll think about soybeans. That's pretty normal. And then in the wintertime, they'll grow a fuel crop. And in this case, we're thinking about canola, which is a really high oil content crop, which you can put into biodiesel or sustainable aviation fuel. And so this is a win-win, right? So farmers can have two sources of income, but they're not taking away from the food system. They're producing food in the summer, and they're producing a fuel crop in the winter. So that's really good for, I think, helping the transition that we need. It's very good for the environment because we're producing twice the crop on the same land. And I think that is a great example where we're using creativity, energy, but also sort of the innovation of a new technology. Now, the question that I get asked by our Indiana farmers is, well, why aren't you bringing it to Indiana? What about us? I mentioned I'm Canadian, and your winters are nothing here, by the way, compared to where I'm from. But they're still a little cold for this canola crop. So we have some work to do, I think, in breeding the genetics for a winter crop in Indiana. But that would be our goal, is eventually once we get this system working, how far north can we go with a double cropping system to produce fuel in the winter, but not take anything away from food production in the summer? That would be our challenge, and I see that one day happening in Indiana, but we're probably a few years out yet.
Well, interesting, fascinating with respect to fuel again coming from crops. Let's talk a little bit about technology. We were talking at our table about Indiana moving forward and its progress as being announced as a tech hub, being designated as a tech hub. What does that mean for an ag bioscience company like Corteva?
Yeah, so Melina's here. She can talk at great lengths about this. What I would say is it's early days, but we think it could be just a huge opportunity for certainly for the state, but also for Corteva. And what we're trying to do right now is just understand the opportunity and learn from what other states have done. But the way I see it is, and Mitch, we were talking about this just before I came up here, is the state of Indiana can be a global hub for human health, for plant health, and for animal health. We have major players in the state of all three. In the actual science, the skills, the infrastructure, everything that we all need, very similar. Once you understand how the genetics work, it doesn't matter if you're looking at plants, animals, or humans. The opportunity would be the same. And I think there's just a huge amount of leverage that we can put in when we work together. So certainly Corteva is involved. We're trying to represent the plant part of this story. But there are a lot of opportunities, I think, here to learn from each other, to work together with government, to work together with the academic institutions, which again, we're very impressed with just the strength of our academic institutions in the state. And if we can bring plant, animal, and human health sciences together with the academic institutions that we have working with government, I think that this could be a great story for the future of the state, and will help industry and help society along the way. So just a quick shout out to the Heartland Bioworks effort, Melina, first class effort. Obviously we need to now get the federal funding. That's the end game, but I think we've got a great position here. And the thing that I'm hoping that Corteva can bring to this is just, look, we're excited to be part of this ecosystem. We're prepared to kind of share our science with others to make sure that we can both learn and contribute to this overall effort. But I think that this is something that can't be understated. The potential of this is quite significant.
Excellent. Let's switch gears a little bit. A topic on probably everyone's mind in the room, which is workforce development, in our talent. You're a global employer with a large local presence. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you're facing from a workforce development standpoint.
Yeah, well, look, the economy was just very tight when it comes to labor and available labor, and we've all went through that. And as a science and technology-based company, we are really, literally only as good as our culture and our talent. And I always tell my leadership team when they ask about, we have lots of strengths as an organization. We have 17,000 patents as a company. And we're putting another 4,000 to 5,000 patents into the system every year, and they think, okay, that's our competitive advantage. And I say, patents have a finite life, right? Really, the only competitive long-term advantage any company has is its culture and its talent. And that's the way we think about it. So the leadership team at Corteva, the way we spend our time is we spend about a third of our time on people and culture. And we really try to understand the future of ag, the future of Corteva, what is really going to be needed and what skill sets we need today, what skill sets we're going to need tomorrow. And when we're thinking about that, the other decision we made is last year we made the decision to increase the level of R&D investment, which is a little challenging when you saw crop prices go down, say for corn, from $6 down to the mid-4s today, and we're increasing investment in research and development. The board was a little nervous, but the board got there, and I could understand why. But we are adding several hundred positions in research and development around the world, and we're looking for talent literally around the world. And some of that will obviously be here, but we're in the market for the same skills that many of you are. We're looking for chemists and biologists and agronomists and engineer and data scientists. These are going to be the future, I think, that Corteva certainly needs. And that's been well documented, and I think we're having good success at hiring these skill sets. But when you're in a growth mode like we are in research and development in the technology organization, it is something that concerns me because we can only deliver business results to the level that we have the talent and the skills. And when we're in a growth mode when it comes to R&D, that is a concern. But what I would say is Corteva's got a very good brand in the market, in our world, in ag and ag technology. I think the one thing that we have to do as an industry is, if you're not from agriculture or you don't have experience on a farm, and for those that have children, you should go home and ask them tonight, have you ever thought about a career in agriculture? Some people are a little far removed from farms today, from agriculture. And so we have to do a better job as a company and as an industry to say, look, agriculture is actually a high technology business. It's one of the most sophisticated, advanced industries in the world, but we're not often thought about that. Sometimes we're thought about as, you drive down a back road and you see a farmer and a tractor doing something very similar to what they did just 5, 10, 15 years ago. But in that tractor today, there is more technology, almost as much technology as in an airplane. And we need to tell that story. We need to ensure that, because we have to draw the next generation of talent, I think, to ag and to ag sciences. And I think that's our mission as an organization and as an industry.
That's amazing. That's so true in these combines today. I think they had GPS and automated driving in the combine before we had them in our cars. You mentioned the Frontier Initiative on energy. Is there more you'd like to say about Corteva and the role you'll play in agriculture on that?
Yeah, I'll be quick. We've talked about this, so I think we've covered it. If you step back and you think about it, most of the world now is working very hard to decarbonize. And we see it in ag, right? In almost every region where we operate, there is a huge push, and oftentimes there's government regulation around producing more with less and trying just to reduce our carbon footprint. And ag is carbon intensive. We're dealing with living systems, and living systems relate to carbon, but it is also necessary to produce the food, so we have to do everything we can. The energy industry is doing the same thing, and I think one of the biggest opportunities we're going to have for US-based farmers is, and for those that are familiar with ag, if you remember what ethanol did just 20 years ago, about a third of the US corn crop today still goes into ethanol production. So it goes into the fuel system. And the next big opportunity, I think, will be renewable diesel fuel, or what we call SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. And this is where I think big ag and big energy need to get together with big ideas to really drive, I think, the energy transition. And if you start to think about this, some of the economists have said the future demand for sustainable aviation fuel, just 10 years out, that demand would consume today's entire US soybean crop. And we can't do that, right? Because that will impact food production. So how do we get to an opportunity where we can feed the world and still allow the energy transition to happen? We're going to need the next generation of technology. And then when I start thinking about this opportunity for Indiana, I get very excited, because Indiana, you all probably know this, I'm still learning a little bit, but we've got Rolls-Royce and Cummins here, we've got the GE aerospace engine facility here, and then we've got Purdue and their propulsion laboratories. So you've got, in the state, you can imagine just an entire circular system where you have Corteva designing crops that are designed for fuel. We take that crop and we crush it, we produce the energy. Hopefully that we can do that locally. And then we have these engine designers and manufacturers that are taking what just was in the field weeks ago into their engines, all right here in the state of Indiana. So this is another just massive opportunity of creating value that starts in a farmer's field, in a crop, and magnifying the economic impact that we have, which is good from a money and dollars and cents perspective, but also the goodness that we're doing for the planet in terms of helping with the energy transition. This gets me very excited about the future in Indiana.
Great. Let's talk internationally for a while. We're all aware of the crises taking place in Ukraine, Russia, China, now Israel. How does that impact, and what does a global company like Corteva do in situations like that?
Yeah, That's a deep one. There's lots to cover here. The global food system, one of the reasons for our success and the reasons why we've been able to feed 8 billion people is because the global food system today is highly interconnected. And we're able to have sort of the countries that have food, they can move it to the countries that don't have the food. And so that allows us to feed a lot more people than every country trying to produce food themselves and not being successful at it. So the free movement of grains and oils is a key tenet to the success of agriculture. The countries that you mentioned, Jeff, are really important to the global food system. So Russia and the Ukraine, they're one of the top food producers on the planet. But they're more than just top food producers. They're also some of the top food exporters. And a lot of that food goes to areas that don't have enough. So think about the Middle East and Africa. So a lot of the grains that are produced in Russia and Ukraine today end up in Africa and the Middle East. China is one of the largest importers of cotton and soybeans and many other food groups. Second largest nation in the world in terms of population, and so they're a major player, and they determine a lot what happens in ag policy. In Israel, many of you may not know this, but Israel, it's a small country, but it plays an outsized role in ag technology. So it's one of the ag tech hubs on the planet. So when disruption happens in any of these countries, it can really cause ripples through the entire food production and the food system. And usually the areas that get hurt are the ones that don't have as much or cannot afford as much, which for us would be Africa and parts of the Middle East. For Corteva, we had operations in all of these countries. We made the difficult decision back in 2022 when the war started to exit Russia. And we've done everything we can to support Ukrainian farmers and the people of Ukraine. But it has not been easy. So just to give you one quick stat, about 23% of the Ukrainian farmland now is not usable for farming. And that's just happened in the last 2 years. And Ukraine is a top 10 producer of food. So this has massive implications around the world. What we've tried to do is we've donated a lot of seed to the Ukraine, to Africa, to the Middle East, to help farmers produce food and not having to pay for the technology. And I think that is helping, but it's probably a drop in the bucket, to be candid with you, because what we can see when we look at world hunger is that the trend line is going in the wrong direction. So let me paint this picture for you. I mentioned we've had a very successful history as an industry. And if you take 2009 to 2019, so just a 10-year period before COVID, so the timeline just before COVID, the industry has done a remarkable job. The amount of people that we call it food insecure. So those that cannot either afford food or don't have enough calories on a daily basis, we call that food insecure. That population on the planet declined to about 8.6%, which is the lowest it's been, I think, in recorded history. But then COVID hit, and food prices, and for those that have been in the grocery store recently, we just went through our Thanksgiving holidays, you can see the price of food, and it has not come down to any significant degree. So now the United Nations is forecasting that 8.6% is going to go back up to around 10% by 2030. So we're now heading in the wrong direction. And the data in Indiana is very, very similar for the state, right? So 1 in 10 people in the state are what we would classify as food insecure right here at home. And so we have to do a better job as an industry. Obviously, we have to work with our partners in government, but we have to try to turn the ship around when it comes to reducing the amount of food insecure people here at home in Indiana, but this trend is around the world right now.
So you've talked about kind of world hunger and being a priority for Corteva. How does that play out here locally in Indiana?
Yeah, so for us, Corteva, we're involved in the community. we look at all these great causes, and I think we work with literally dozens of nonprofits around the state, and we're very proud of that. But our primary focus as a company is just food insecurity. It's something I think we're good at. We understand the science behind it. And we have literally hundreds of employees that spend their time giving into the local community, which I think is great. I'm very proud of them. And it's core to who we are and our company purpose. I'll give you a couple of examples. Back in 2015, we created a new food pantry, Crooked Creek Food Pantry, for those that are familiar with it. It's in Pike and Washington townships. But the numbers are actually quite staggering, and I was shocked when I saw the data just this, when we were prepping for this. It's the third largest food pantry in central Indiana, and it serves 4,500 families per week, which is great, but also what a shocking number. We have a program, so we'll continue to look for opportunities, Jeff, but we have a program that our employees took on years ago now, so this is over 10 years old, called Harvest for Hunger. And this is where our employees actually grow fresh produce, and they give that food, so they produce it and they donate it to the food banks and the food pantries. And this year, proud to say 9,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables were produced by Corteva employees, and almost 100,000 over the last 10 years, which was remarkable, including honey. For those that like honey, we have our own bees, and our employees produce the honey, and we donate all of this. And that is our way of sort of connecting our core purpose to, I think, an important and growing need in the community. But now we're looking at what's next, because obviously with these trends, they're concerning. We have to step back as a company and figure out, okay, how do we up our game? How do we take it to the next level? And there's a lot of thinking being done, and we're designing a new strategy right now to kind of take our game when it comes to food insecurity to the next level.
We talked earlier about farming, and it's not very well known, maybe as much as it should be today. So what would you want to have happen? How would you inform people about farming? What would you want them to know or want them to know more about?
Yeah, so let me wrap up maybe with just 3 key messages. One, of course, is ag is founded on a very simple principle of global food security. And the reason for that is that history has proven, right, that it is a foundation for global peace and prosperity. It's a basic need, and if people are not well fed and well nourished, they can't lead kind of productive lives in society. It's well documented. The other thing I would say, so the second message is, it is getting more difficult to accomplish that mission. It's getting more difficult to produce food. We talked about the geopolitics, so the Russia-Ukraine war, what's happening now in parts of the Middle East, all of these things influence food production. But there's something else going on, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but we're seeing an increase in sort of insect and disease pressure across global agriculture. And so that is another challenge that we're seeing. And just to give you one quick stat on that, the United Nations, so the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, a very reputed organization that tracks this stuff, they are predicting that today 40% of global crop production is lost to disease and insects. And if you put a dollar value on that, it's about $300 billion, so it's enormous. And so if you let that sink in, we're losing about almost half of what we produce, what farmers produce through disease and insects. And that's where technology comes in. So that's my third sort of optimistic pillar is we have solutions for a lot of this in our pipeline, but agricultural technology, science, innovation, bringing really highly skilled, talented people with the same purpose and vision that we have, we can solve these challenges. Like I said it before, I'm an optimist. I think that things are going to be strong in the future, but we need to be able to draw the best talent and have the best science and give our farmers around the world and here at home the tools to succeed. And I think we're on the right path. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Just a few questions. We've got a few minutes left, and just a few questions from the audience. We have a period of, we'll call it a season, where the Blue Jackets invade the city of Indianapolis, the Future Farmers of America. Does Corteva have a partnership with the Future Farmers of America? And if so, how does that partnership prepare the FFA to go into this field of work?
Yeah, so is there anybody from the FFA here?
I don't know.
Well, we love you if you're here. Obviously we do, and it's across the U.S.
Yeah.
The convention is here. We're very proud of that, and I think our legacy company had something to do with bringing the national convention here. But that is our future. That is a group that will one day be in our industry, on the farm, helping solve these challenges, driving these opportunities. But I would say that we need to get FFA more well known to folks that maybe have not grown up in ag or grown up on a farm. And that's one area where I'd love to partner more with FFA to really make sure that what the good work that they do is more well known than just our local rural communities.
Okay, great, thank you. And then what are your views on growing demands for organic and non-GMO foods? How do you balance the needs of solving global challenges with managing consumer fears and sentiment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So look, there's not a one-size-fits-all in today's world. And organic and non-GMO certainly have its place. And we have a lot of our products that will go into that part of the economy, the ag economy. But the point is, we would not be able, the science is very clear, without GMO technology, we would not be having the yields we have today, and we would simply have to put more land into production. And that would have been quite devastating, I think, from an environmental perspective. So this is a balancing act. I think every sort of technology, non-technology have its role. But I think one of the top inventions in the last 30 years in agriculture has been biotechnology, GMO technology, and thank goodness we have that technology, because I think that we would have a lot more farmland around the world, and we'd have to take down a lot of forests to produce the same amount of food that we would producing today without GMO technology.
Yeah, and I think technology, as you stated earlier, we'll see that on the energy side as well with ag, and so we'll need to continue to grow, and that it's got to be a part of our future. Last question is around biodiversity and preserving biodiversity. What are the thoughts in terms of contribution to preserving biodiversity?
Yeah, it's a major focus. It's one of Corteva's top 4 sustainability goals, is to drive the amount of acres we have and bring some back into healthy soils. Some of the new technology, so we have about 8 new products coming into the market over the next decade, and these things take 10 to 15 years to get approved, but some of them are absolutely fascinating. We just approved a herbicide, for example, that the previous generation would have required hundreds of liters of product on a farm, and now we can treat the same amount of arable land with basically 1 sugar caplet of product. So we're talking about 300 or 400 times less product going on the field, but having the same effective.
Wow. And
that really will drive, I think, diversity of land and soil, because we do have to take care of our soils around the world, and this is one of the ways we're doing it, is to use chemistry and biology that is less harmful to the environment, but still getting the job done.
Great. Please join me in thanking Chuck for being with us.
Thank you.
Fascinating, fascinating. Today's presentation will be available online at economicclubofindiana.com. Again, join us next month, December 14th, as we host and welcome Scott Davison, the CEO of One America. Again, information and tickets will be online at economicclubofindiana.com. As a reminder, don't forget your QR codes, and please enjoy your afternoon. Thank you. Chuck, thank you again. Yeah.